You begin with a breath, a slow, settling breath that softens the edges of your awareness. You let the air move in gently, as if it carries a small lantern, glowing warm and steady. On the exhale, you feel a loosening, a quiet release, like soil gently parting under your feet. Nothing urgent, nothing loud, just an invitation to step inward. You notice the familiar hum in the background, the one you usually overlook. Tonight, it feels softer, almost shy, as though it has been waiting for you to turn your attention toward it. With each inhale, you drift deeper, moving toward the warm space beneath your ribs. With each exhale, the path becomes clearer, lined with subtle light and faint, earthy warmth. You sense something living there, not threatening, not hidden, just patient. As you walk, the scene grows into a gentle garden. Not a garden you cultivate with tools or schedules, but a garden that tends itself quietly, continuously. The air here is warm, shaped by your breath. The ground feels alive, not in a dramatic way, but in the simple, comforting sense of a place that knows how to take care of itself. You feel the softness under your steps, like rich soil that has been preparing for you for a long time. You pause, amused for a moment by how cozy it feels. A garden inside you. If someone told you earlier, you might have laughed softly, but not the loud kind. More the quiet puff of air that escapes when something unexpectedly makes sense. You let that tiny smile pass through you like a friendly breeze. Here, millions of tiny helpers work around you. You don't see them individually, but you feel their presence the way you feel warmth from a fire you never quite look at directly. They move through the soil of your inner world with gentle coordination. No rush, no scramble, just a steady rhythm, like countless tiny footsteps finding harmony. They shape the texture of the soil, soften the air, steady the warmth, and in doing so, they steady you. This garden is your microbiome, though here it feels less like a scientific term and more like a forest of quiet caretakers. They break down the food you eat, turning it into nourishment. They help your immune system understand what is friend and what is stranger. And in their soft, continuous labor, they send messages, tiny chemical murmurs that drift through your body. Your mood listens. You wander along a curved path, guided not by urgency but by curiosity. The soil glows faintly beneath your steps, shimmering with the gentle activity of microscopic life. You imagine them like gardeners wearing soft hats, tending little patches of earth, passing small messages back and forth. It is a silly image, and that silliness makes you feel lighter, which perhaps is the point. The deeper you walk, the more the warmth gathers. You realize the garden responds to you. When you breathe slowly, the light deepens. When you relax your shoulders, the soil softens. When you soften your jaw, a warm breeze lifts through the inner leaves. Your body and this garden are not separate worlds. They are two sides of one quiet landscape. You kneel beside a patch of glowing soil. As you breathe, you sense tiny exchanges happening. Molecules shifting, signals forming, little bursts of invisible harmony. You feel a soft reassurance in the air, as if the garden whispers, "You are supported. You don't need to do anything. The system already works for you." You let that sink in. The whole garden seems to exhale with you, and for a moment, everything feels slow and wonderfully grounded. Your thoughts don't rush ahead. They settle like petals falling in slow motion. You continue walking, letting your fingers brush against invisible leaves. They respond with subtle sparks of warmth, not hot, just pleasantly alive. You realize that these small organisms, so tiny, so easy to overlook, shape the very way you experience calm. Their balance becomes your balance. Their steadiness becomes your steadiness. Their gentle labor forms the foundation of your emotional landscape. You pause again, noticing a faint shimmer in the distance, like a spark rising from a candle. It flickers, soft but distinct, something like a message forming. You watch it hover above the soil, then drift upward, weaving through the warm air. You follow its path with your eyes, feeling its movement inside you. It rises slowly, not rushed, as though respecting the quiet of the garden. Maybe this is how mood begins, not as a single event, but as a gentle whisper carried from one part of you to another. You breathe again, and the signal brightens for a moment, responding to the warmth of your inhale. You can almost feel its intention, its direction, its quiet confidence as it drifts higher through your body. A tiny helper's message, rising. You step forward, following it. The soil beneath your feet shifts softly, guiding you toward the place where the message seems to be heading. It drifts upward, like a lantern's glow moving toward a higher branch. You don't know exactly where it is going, but something in you recognizes the path, the way one recognizes familiar music played slowly in the background. You sense that this message carries meaning, emotional meaning, perhaps a hint of calm, perhaps a quiet suggestion of safety, perhaps simply a reminder that you are alive and supported by countless invisible companions. The message continues to rise, and you follow, moving deeper toward the next part of your inner world. You don't hurry. You let the garden guide your pace. The warm hum grows softer, as if the garden is settling behind you for the moment, happy to let you explore. Before you move on, you linger a little longer, letting your eyes wander over the garden's soft horizon. You notice how everything here breathes with you, how even the smallest patches of soil seem to rise and fall in gentle rhythm. A tiny swirl of warm air brushes past your cheek, playful and delicate, as if one of the unseen gardeners has decided to give you a friendly nudge. You smile at the thought, letting the moment settle. The warmth here feels natural, shaped by your breath and the steady care. You sense a quietness gathering around you, as if the entire space is offering a reassuring pause before you continue onward, reminding you that you can return here whenever you need. You take one last breath in this place, feeling the soil glow beneath you. On the exhale, the faint signal ahead brightens slightly, calling you forward. You follow it, wondering where it leads next. You begin again with a breath, the kind that feels like warm air drifting across a quiet landscape. Your shoulders loosen, your jaw softens. The inner garden brightens under your awareness, as if your presence alone is a kind of sunlight. The faint signal you followed at the end of the previous chapter glows somewhere ahead, waiting patiently for you to notice it again. You feel no hurry. The garden has no clocks. It moves with you at the pace of your breathing. As you step forward, the soil beneath your feet changes texture. Softer, warmer, almost sponge-like, like the floor of a greenhouse after gentle rain. You inhale, and the air feels humid, rich, full of possibility. You exhale, and the space settles around you, adjusting to your calm. This part of the garden feels different, like entering a new district of a quiet, living city where countless tiny beings are busy, yet somehow the atmosphere remains restful. You walk slowly, allowing the warm glow to reveal more of the terrain. What you see feels strangely familiar, even though you've never looked at your own inner world this way. The soil forms clusters and shapes, gentle rises and dips, patterns that remind you of neighborhoods. Not human neighborhoods, no roads, no buildings, but the natural equivalent. Microbial homes, settlements, communities forming quiet structures that support the entire garden. You pause for a moment, amused by the idea of tiny microbial suburbs thriving inside you. You imagine one microbe waving at another while rearranging a grain of digested fiber. The thought makes you smile, just a tiny smile, the kind that barely lifts the corners of your mouth. The garden seems to approve. The air warms in acknowledgement. With each step you take, the microbial neighborhoods become more defined. Some areas shimmer with activity, like bustling markets where molecules are traded in silence. Others are soft, shaded spaces where microbes rest, waiting for new nutrients to arrive. You notice pockets of warmth, where the soil glows as if thousands of tiny lanterns flicker beneath the surface. These are the microbial communities that help maintain balance, keeping the garden steady. You kneel beside one of these glowing patches. The warmth rises gently, like heat from sunlit earth. You place your hand over it, not touching but hovering just above. The soil pulses faintly. You feel movement, not a single motion, but a collective one, like a tide of microscopic life flowing through the inner ground. These microbes are building their homes, arranging the soil, shaping their environment with quiet precision. You inhale deeply, and the soil glows brighter. You exhale slowly, and it settles again. The garden responds to your breathing, as though your breath is a kind of weather. When you inhale warmly, the soil becomes richer. When you exhale softly, the air becomes calmer. You realize that your internal environment shapes microbial behavior, the same way sunlight and moisture shape an outdoor garden. Their world changes when your world changes. You rise to continue walking, feeling the shifting terrain under your steps. The path curves gently, lined with soft ridges that remind you of mossy roots. You follow the curve, letting it carry you through a sequence of microbial communities, each with its own mood, its own quiet purpose. These neighborhoods are not random. They form where the conditions suit them, where the soil carries the right warmth, the right moisture, the right nutrients. You think briefly of your daily routines, what you eat, how you sleep, how you breathe. You hadn't realized how deeply these things affect the inner garden. A calm day brings moisture to the soil. A balanced meal feeds the communities. A peaceful breath encourages them to settle into harmony. Even laughter, you realize, must send gentle tremors through the garden, probably startling a few microbes just enough for them to mutter, "There it goes again." The thought makes you exhale another tiny laugh, and the garden warms as if laughing with you. You continue forward, entering a wider space where the soil looks looser, more aerated. Here, microbial communities are building something like soft structures, clusters of biochemical homes, formed by molecules breaking down and reorganizing. You don't see walls or roofs. You sense patterns, flow, collaboration. Each microbe plays a role, contributing to the collective comfort of the neighborhood. You pause to appreciate the harmony. These microbes don't compete for greatness. They don't seek credit or recognition. They simply work together, quietly, steadily, creating stability for you. The garden shows you this not as a lesson with words, but as a feeling. A sense that collaboration creates resilience. That tiny efforts, repeated consistently, build strong foundations. You walk deeper still. The glow of the soil shifts from warm gold to soft amber, then to a faint blush of pink in certain regions. These colors aren't literal. They are sensations, impressions, emotional translations of microbial diversity. Each hue represents a different kind of community, a different set of helpers. Some specialize in breaking down plant fibers, others in calming inflammation, others in crafting molecules that soothe your mood. And they all live here, together, in this quiet place beneath your awareness. You reach a region where the soil forms delicate ridges, like small dunes sculpted by wind. But the wind here is chemical, subtle changes in pH and moisture that shift the contours of microbial homes. You kneel again, brushing your fingers lightly through the warm air. You sense the microbes adjusting to your presence, not alarmed, just curious. As if the planet they live on, your body, is taking a moment to check on them. You breathe slowly, letting the exhale lengthen. The dunes soften, settling into smoother shapes. You feel a gentle contentment radiating from the soil, though microbes don't feel contentment in the human sense. It's more like the system itself is balanced, and balance feels warm. Walking on, you notice drifting particles glowing like tiny fireflies. These are nutrients, fibers, plant compounds, remnants of your meals, floating through the garden like pollen. Microbes catch them gently, like gardeners catching falling petals. They transform them, break them down, turn them into the building blocks of your well-being. It's a quiet operation, constant one, a kindness you never see. You take another breath, slow, warm, grounded. The microbial neighborhoods shift in small ripples as you exhale, as if acknowledging your presence before returning to their patient tasks. You begin to understand that these microbes build not just their homes, but part of your home, your internal stability, your emotional grounding, your sense of steady calm. The faint hum grows clearer now, not louder, just more distinct, like the tension in the air before a message is spoken. You feel it rising from deeper in the garden, threading through the microbial neighborhoods like a soft vibration of purpose. You sense a connection forming, a whisper, a network beginning to hum awake. You step toward it, following the warmth, the glow, the subtle call. Ahead, you sense a gentle hum, like a network forming in the distance. You begin with a slow inhale, letting your awareness drift through the pathways you discovered in the last chapter. The microbial neighborhoods you visited continue their quiet work, like distant villages humming gently under the night sky. You exhale and notice the soft vibrations in the air, tiny signals rising, weaving, floating through the soil. You sense their purpose not as noise, but as subtle language. You are entering a world of whispers. As you walk, you notice the air thickens with faint warmth. It is not hot, not intrusive, just comforting, like a blanket laid across the inner landscape. Each breath you take seems to lift a hint of movement, as though invisible threads stretch between the tiny dwellers of the garden. The threads vibrate, carrying messages in silence. A pulse, a hum, a rhythm you can almost feel as much as see. You kneel beside a patch of glowing soil. Tiny lights flicker beneath the surface, soft sparks traveling from one cluster to another. These are the whispers, the chemical messages microbes send to one another. You imagine them forming tiny conversations, like gentle streams crossing under stones, each ripple meaningful yet unobtrusive. You lean closer, letting your attention mingle with the flow. It is astonishing how organized it all feels. Nothing is forced, nothing rushed. Each microbe knows when to speak and when to listen. They sense the density of neighbors, the availability of resources, the subtle warmth in the soil, and they respond. Slowly, delicately, you realize that this is not communication in words, but in intention, in timing, in chemistry. A quiet network of understanding. You inhale deeply, feeling your chest expand. The soil responds. The hum deepens. A tiny flicker travels from one corner of the garden to another, then back again. You imagine these whispers deciding when to bloom, when to rest, when to send nutrients flowing through the soil. Their collective decision-making is soft but remarkably coordinated. Harmony without sound, rhythm without structure, purpose without urgency. You let your fingers hover above the warm ground, tracing imaginary lines connecting clusters of life. The threads of chemical signals ripple beneath your touch. You wonder if they notice you, or if they perceive your presence as part of the environment, another gentle influence shaping the conversation. The thought makes you smile softly, amused at the idea that you, too, are part of this whisper network now, a silent participant in an ecosystem of subtle signals. Each microbe is small, invisible, yet their impact is vast. You feel it in your chest, in the gentle steadiness of your heartbeat, in the quiet steadiness of your mind. The whispers influence not only the soil, but your mood, your perception, your calm. You inhale again, and the glow of the network seems to brighten, threads shimmering faintly. You exhale, feeling the warmth ripple through your awareness, like tiny hands smoothing the surface of your thoughts. You step along the soft path, following the pulse of the whisper network. Clusters rise and fall, signals branching out, converging, forming loops of communication. It is like watching a slow dance of light, subtle yet intricate. The pulses dictate the pace of microbial life, the timing of nourishment, the rhythm of growth and rest. And in doing so, they shape the environment that shapes you. A soft breeze, warm and playful, brushes against your cheek. You laugh quietly at the sensation, feeling a ripple of joy spread through the garden. Perhaps it is your laughter influencing the microbes, or perhaps the microbes are responding to your calm, reinforcing the cycle. Either way, the interaction is gentle and natural. You breathe in again, noticing how the whispers rise, carrying faint ripples of chemical language like petals floating on a stream. Some messages travel far, while others stay close, whispered only to a few neighbors. You imagine that certain signals prepare the soil for new arrivals, while others reassure older inhabitants that balance remains. Quorum sensing, you recall, is the name given to this process, but here it is simply a gentle pulse, a nod, a shared understanding. Timing and density shape the flow of communication. Cooperation unfolds naturally. You wander slowly, letting your attention drift between clusters, between pulses, between glimmers of warmth in the soil. You notice that when one cluster signals another, the effect spreads outward, like the echo of a soft bell, never harsh, never intrusive. The hum you feel is not a sound but a presence, a subtle orchestra of coordination, quiet but constant. Your breath matches its rhythm, inhale, exhale, like tuning yourself to a slow internal current. You pause in a small clearing where threads of light seem to cross paths. You sense an invisible conversation unfolding. One cluster appears to request support. Another provides it, sending a faint glow in reply. The exchange is instantaneous yet unhurried, precise yet relaxed. You understand, in a visceral way, that these whispers allow the garden to remain balanced. They maintain harmony through subtle communication, responding to needs before they become problems. You kneel and rest your palm above the soil, feeling the faint pulsing beneath. It is a living rhythm, responsive and gentle, like a heartbeat you cannot see but can sense everywhere. You imagine yourself as a silent observer in this world, noticing the patterns, noticing the care. Nothing here is hurried. Nothing here is rigid. It is flexible, alive, harmonious. A tiny laugh escapes you, a micro chuckle at the thought of microbes coordinating like an invisible orchestra, performing a symphony of calm for you. The garden responds, warmth deepening beneath your hand. The whisper network pulses in gentle reply, almost as if acknowledging your awareness. You exhale slowly, letting the humor settle softly, a small joy that leaves a trace of lightness in your chest. You continue walking, following the threads of chemical conversation through the inner pathways. Some signals rise upward, destined for higher regions of the garden. Others spiral outward, connecting clusters that appear far apart. You realize that communication is not uniform. It is nuanced, adaptable, organic, and it all happens quietly, invisibly, beautifully. The further you move, the more you sense the complexity. Yet it feels intuitive, as if the garden itself is explaining without words, teaching you to notice rhythm, balance, and cooperation. The tiny communities are both independent and connected, like dancers moving in slow, coordinated circles, each influencing the other, each responding in time. You pause again and inhale deeply, feeling the warmth of the whispers fill your chest. You exhale slowly, noticing how the hum travels up through your body, threading through your awareness. This network, this quiet symphony of communication, shapes not only the soil but your internal landscape. You are part of it whether you realize it or not. The whispers reach your mind, sending gentle signals of calm, of presence, of interconnectedness. You step forward, following a faint trail of pulsing light toward a soft glow at the horizon. The whispers grow clearer, not louder, but more distinct, like the soft wind moving through tall grass. You feel the flow of communication, the intricate pulses connecting neighborhood to neighborhood. The network is alive. The network is patient. The network is kind. And you are walking through it, breathing in its rhythm, exhaling in harmony, letting its calm permeate you. Ahead, you notice a tiny signal rising higher than the others, drifting upward toward the heart of the garden. You sense that this is where the whispers will converge, where the network will send its message beyond the soil, beyond the neighborhoods, toward the next chapter of your journey. A gentle invitation, a soft current of awareness, guiding you onward. You take one final deep inhale, letting it fill your body and the garden alike. You exhale slowly, feeling the hum settle, threading through every microbial home. You smile softly, sensing the harmony, the gentle coordination, the quiet pulse that will continue even as you move forward. One message drifts upward, carried like a seed on warm air, traveling toward your brain. You begin with a breath that carries you softly forward, feeling the warmth of the inner garden ripple under your awareness. The soil beneath your feet glows faintly, humming with the whispers you have come to know. Tiny signals pulse gently, rising like slow lanterns floating upward through a quiet night. You inhale, and the air feels heavier, yet comforting. You exhale, and the garden shifts, settling its glow around you. You are walking toward a pathway you have not explored before, one that rises higher than the neighborhoods, stretching upward with quiet purpose. The pathway begins as a thin ribbon of light, almost invisible, weaving through the soil and the subtle networks of microbial homes. You follow it without haste. It feels like a corridor made of warmth and soft pulses, a gentle bridge between the foundation of your internal world and the higher reaches of awareness. This is the gut-brain axis, though the name feels unimportant here. What matters is the sensation. A stream of life flowing quietly, carrying messages without pressure, without demand, only gentle guidance. As you walk, you notice that the light of the pathway pulses with the rhythm of your breathing. Inhale, warmth brightens. Exhale, the light softens, settling again. Each pulse feels alive, like a lantern breathing with you, illuminating the subtle details of the surrounding soil. You sense that this is a channel of connection, a soft bridge linking the microbiome neighborhoods you have explored to the thoughts, emotions, and moods that drift through your mind above. The path widens slightly, and you sense tiny currents brushing past your skin, almost like a whisper of air in a quiet room. Each current carries a chemical message from the microbes below. Some are warm, comforting signals, hints of calm and balance. Others are lighter, curious, exploratory, nudges that shape subtle shifts in mood, thought, or energy. You inhale again, noticing how the warmth carries these signals upward, threading them gently through your chest and shoulders into your awareness. You pause, feeling the light of the pathway deepen, as if it knows you are noticing. A tiny flicker rises along the ribbon, pulsing in soft rhythm. You imagine it carrying the collective whispers of microbial neighborhoods, the same quiet conversations you observed, rising toward your brain. The signals do not hurry. They float in gentle arcs, weaving around each other, branching into tiny threads, then rejoining in seamless harmony. The effect is mesmerizing, almost musical, a symphony of calm composed in invisible notes. You inhale, filling your lungs with warm awareness. You exhale, letting the glow of the light path brush against your fingertips, though you cannot see them. It is as if the entire corridor is alive, aware of your attention, and responding with delicate pulses of reassurance. The signals are subtle, almost playful, teasing the edges of perception. You realize softly that the microbe's influence is never forceful. It is a steady, patient shaping of mood, a gentle guidance rather than instruction. As you continue walking, the corridor curves upward, and you notice that the air carries a faint scent. Not a literal scent, but a sensation of warmth, earthy and sweet, as if the garden itself were exhaling. Each inhalation draws in this quiet fragrance, and each exhale releases a ripple of light that travels through the pathway. You notice how each signal moves through the vagus nerve, a delicate filament of connection, tracing a gentle arc from gut to mind. It is a pathway of light, carrying whispers, warmth, and calm. The microbes themselves are invisible, yet their presence is tangible. You sense their messages flowing upward as if they were threads of silk, intertwining with your nervous system in a pattern of quiet orchestration. Each chemical whisper is soft, deliberate, carrying intent without urgency. You imagine them as lantern bearers, walking alongside the corridor, ensuring every signal reaches its destination with care. They are patient. They are steady. They are entirely loyal to the rhythm of the garden. You take a deep, slow breath, feeling the pathway expand around you. The light grows more vivid, pulsing in synchrony with your heartbeat. You notice that even your thoughts, your mood, your subtle emotional currents respond. The garden is not merely below you, it flows through you. Each exhale deepens the warmth. Each inhale draws it higher, lifting signals into consciousness without force, without notice. You are both observer and participant, walking through a living symphony of connection. The pathway twists gently, and you sense a tiny bloom of light rising from a nearby microbial cluster. It drifts into the corridor, merging with the pulse of the vagus. You watch as the message travels upward, splitting into multiple threads, like a soft river branching through a forest. Each thread carries a slightly different flavor, a hint of calm, a flicker of curiosity, a touch of reassurance. You inhale slowly, letting the warmth wash over your chest, letting the glow settle deep inside. You exhale. The threads drift higher, brushing against the unseen walls of the corridor. The entire passage seems alive, responsive, attuned to your breath, your presence, your awareness. You imagine the microbes smiling, or something like a smile, tiny sparks of satisfaction flickering as their messages reach their destination. You feel a subtle buoyancy, a soft lift in your chest, as if the lanterns themselves are celebrating their passage. You continue walking, each step slow, deliberate. The pathway carries you upward, winding through gentle curves, each illuminated with faint pulses of light. You realize that the mood you feel now is shaped by this journey. Your calm, your awareness, your gentle emotional balance. All of it rises from the quiet collaboration of microbial neighborhoods below. Their whispers travel, threading through the pathway, until the signals reach the mind above, softening, shaping, supporting. A warm current brushes against your face, like a breath from the garden itself. You smile softly at the intimacy of it. The microbes do not command, they guide. They influence without coercion. And in doing so, they craft a rhythm, a pace, a quiet stability that settles through your body. You notice that even your exhale is different now. Slower, longer, more deliberate, matching the rhythm of the corridor. As the corridor straightens, you feel a faint glow ahead, brighter than the surrounding path. You sense that the signals are converging, pooling in anticipation of reaching the mind above. It is not a climax, not a rush, not a climax. It is a soft, quiet meeting point where communication is realized without urgency. The light pulses steadily, warmly, inviting you to notice without demanding attention. You inhale and the glow strengthens. You exhale and it spreads through your awareness. The whispers of the microbial neighborhoods continue to rise, carrying hints of calm, hints of balance, hints of steady presence. You feel them threading through your chest, up along the corridor, brushing the edges of thought, nudging gently at awareness. They do not intrude. They do not push. They settle like warm wind, brushing against leaves, soft and intentional. You are aware of the dialogue without needing words. You are part of it, and it is part of you. The pathway begins to ascend higher, curving gently into spaces that shimmer faintly, like distant lanterns reflected in water. You feel a tug, a soft invitation, drawing you forward. You sense that the garden has prepared this route for you, that the whispers are guiding, not pushing, carrying the gentle intelligence of the microbiome upward through the light of the Vegas. You inhale deeply, and the corridor glows brighter. You exhale slowly, letting warmth ripple through your chest. You sense the garden stretching upward, the lanterns pulsing in quiet rhythm, leading the whispers toward a central point in your awareness. You are lifted by the soft current of life flowing beneath you. The pathway is alive, responsive, patient. Each pulse carries intent, guidance, reassurance. You feel a soft smile forming, a quiet understanding settling in. Your mood begins here, in this gentle crosswind of signals, in the quiet collaboration of unseen companions. You inhale again, letting the glow rise through your chest. You exhale, feeling the light pulse softly into your awareness. A delicate warmth spreads across your shoulders. You notice that the whispers rise still higher, threading through the final stretches of the corridor, weaving a network of calm and balance. You are both observer and participant. You are part of this living conversation. Somewhere deeper in the garden, something begins to bloom. A lantern of light rises ahead, pulsing softly. You follow it, guided by the whispers, by the rhythm, by your breath. It carries you gently, like a current lifting a leaf across a quiet stream, toward the next chapter of the garden story. You begin with a breath that carries you forward, deeper into the inner garden. The pathway from the gut-brain axis glows faintly behind you, pulsing with the whispers of microbes you followed in the last chapter. Ahead, the soil thickens with warmth, rich and soft under your awareness. You inhale, noticing the gentle currents rising from below, the subtle fragrances of life carried upward through the luminous corridors. You exhale, letting the glow settle, like a slow candle flame in quiet air. As you step forward, the soil begins to shift in texture. Small, delicate mounds rise gently, as if sculpted by unseen hands. And there, nestled among the soft ridges, you notice tiny blooms beginning to unfurl. Not flowers as you know them, but something remarkably similar, biochemical petals, soft and luminous, opening with subtle grace. These are the neurotransmitters, the gentle blossoms that shape feeling, emotion, and calm. You kneel, letting your fingers hover just above the petals. Each one glows softly, exhaling a delicate warmth. Serotonin blooms first, petals tinted with quiet gold. You inhale, and the fragrance seems to rise with it, brushing your awareness with a sense of steady safety. Exhale slowly, letting the warmth sink into your chest. It feels as though a small lantern has been lit inside, spreading light without heat, reassurance without demand. A dopamine bloom unfurls nearby, its petals a soft, vibrant green, humming faintly with curiosity and gentle anticipation. You breathe it in, noticing the subtle lift in your mood, a lightness that spreads through your awareness like sunbeam threads through morning mist. The garden around you responds, shimmering slightly as the blooms release their fragrance into the air. Each blossom is a message, a signal, a gentle nudge toward steadiness, toward joy, toward presence. GABA, with petals tinted soft lavender, opens more slowly, exhaling a calming aroma that soothes tension you didn't realize had been holding in your shoulders, in your jaw, in the back of your neck. You inhale deeply, feeling the soft weight of calm settle into your limbs. Exhale, and the inner garden seems to breathe along with you, petals quivering gently as if acknowledging your attention. Each bloom works quietly, invisibly, shaping your emotional landscape in ways that feel entirely natural, entirely earned. You take a slow step forward, letting the warmth of the blooms rise around you. The soil beneath your feet pulses faintly, in rhythm with your breath. You notice that the blooms do not compete for space. They open in harmony, their fragrances mingling, blending, creating a soft symphony of chemical light. You inhale and a sense of balance deepens. You exhale, and the pulses of the garden thread through your awareness, a steady current of presence and safety. Tiny currents of energy ripple upward, carrying the blossom's influence toward the higher reaches of the pathway. You feel each message as a gentle hum, a reminder that your emotional state is not only influenced by thought or intention, but by this quiet garden that thrives within. The microbes, loyal gardeners of this inner soil, continue to tend these blooms with delicate precision. Their work is subtle, but the effects are profound. You pause near a cluster of blooms, letting their fragrances swirl around you. The serotonin petals open and close rhythmically, the dopamine flowers sway gently, and the GABA petals pulse with each breath you take. It is mesmerizing. You exhale slowly, noticing how your chest rises and falls in harmony with the bloom's rhythm. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. The garden teaches you to sync with its pace, to move with its soft currents rather than resist them. As you explore the space, you notice smaller blooms tucked in between the larger petals, delicate blossoms that release fleeting hints of calm or curiosity. You smile at their tiny, loyal work, like apprentices in the garden tending the soil while the older blooms maintain their presence. You inhale deeply, feeling the warmth rise through your body. You exhale, letting it settle through your chest and shoulders, carrying with it the quiet assurance of balance. A gentle breeze stirs through the garden, though there is no wind. The fragrance of the blooms drifts softly, brushing against your awareness. You laugh quietly at the sensation, a small, intimate sound that seems to ripple through the soil, nudging the blossoms to sway. The warmth pulses gently in response, threads of light rising upward, threading through the pathway, carrying messages toward your mind. You feel the delicate partnership between the soil, the microbes, and your awareness. You take another step, letting the chemical blossoms rise with you. Each inhale brings the scent, the warmth, the light, threading through your body in slow arcs. Exhale, and you feel a subtle lift in your mood, a soft settling of tension, a quiet reassurance that you are exactly where you need to be. You notice how the blooms respond to your breath, opening with each inhale, softening with each exhale, dancing in gentle synchrony with your rhythm. The garden whispers gently without words. You sense the cooperation of countless tiny hands. Microbes shaping petals, petals shaping signals, signals shaping calm, calm shaping awareness. You inhale slowly, letting the soft pulses of neurotransmitter light fill your awareness. Exhale, and the warmth radiates through your chest, threading into your shoulders, relaxing the space behind your eyes, softening the curve of your jaw. You kneel once more, placing your hand above a cluster of blooms. Warmth radiates up through your palm. You inhale deeply, feeling the subtle guidance of serotonin, dopamine, and GABA shaping steadiness, curiosity, and calm. You exhale, letting it settle in your awareness. You notice how the small acts of these invisible gardeners ripple outward, influencing your mood, your perception, your sense of presence in ways that feel entirely natural. The blooms pulse softly, rising and falling in gentle arcs. You breathe in harmony with them. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. A sense of calm deepens, not as a goal, not as an instruction, but as a natural consequence of the quiet, persistent work of the microbial gardeners below. Their whispers rise through chemical light, threading into your awareness with soft insistence, teaching you patience, presence, and gentle attention. You step forward, feeling the warmth of the blooms trail your movement, following you upward through the inner garden. Each inhale carries light, each exhale spreads it. You sense that the garden is preparing you for the next stage of your journey, where the whispers and blooms converge, threading together into the larger rhythm of your inner ecosystem. You feel gratitude, quietly, for these unseen companions, for their soft persistence, for the calm they create with subtle, unhurried care. A gentle breeze brushes your cheek. You inhale deeply, letting the fragrance of the blooms rise through your awareness. You exhale slowly, letting the warmth settle. The petals continue their quiet work, the microbial gardeners continue tending, and you continue walking, threading slowly toward the next chapter, toward the next bloom, toward the next pulse of the inner garden. A new breeze moves through the garden, hinting at change and adaptation. You begin with a breath, slow and deliberate, noticing the gentle warmth of the inner garden beneath your awareness. The chemical blossoms of neurotransmitters sway softly in the soil, their light and fragrance blending into a quiet symphony of calm. You exhale slowly, feeling the pulses of the microbial neighborhoods thread upward, touching your chest, threading through your awareness. A soft hum rises from the soil. You inhale again, letting it deepen. You exhale, and the garden seems to sigh in unison. You step forward, noticing the soil change beneath your feet. Some patches are dry, faintly cracked, as if waiting for rain. Others glisten softly, rich with warmth and moisture. You realize that the garden responds to your internal state. When your mind feels tense or restless, the soil shifts toward dryness, losing some of its glow. When your thoughts drift with calm, the soil absorbs the light, regains warmth, and pulses with vitality. You are walking through a landscape that mirrors your internal climate, one where emotional weather shapes the ground beneath your awareness. A gentle breeze stirs through the garden, carrying tiny particles of warmth like mist across the soil. You inhale slowly, letting it fill your chest. You exhale, and the dry patches soften, responding to the presence of your breath. It is not magic. It is rhythm. It is connection. Your internal climate is alive, as responsive as the soil beneath your hands. You notice how microcurrents ripple through the microbial neighborhoods, shifting gently with each pulse of inhalation and exhalation. You kneel beside a patch of soil that appears more arid than the surrounding areas. Tiny microbes cluster together, forming soft mounds, conserving energy, waiting patiently. You sense their subtle tension, their quiet vigilance. You inhale, imagining a gentle rain, your breath softening the soil, spreading warmth, encouraging movement. Exhale slowly. The soil responds, beads of light shimmering across the surface as if tiny droplets of moisture have settled. You feel a sense of calm threading through your chest, an echo of the garden's restoration. You rise and step along a winding path where the climate shifts with gentle undulations. Some areas feel warmer, saturated with subtle light, like sun-warmed moss. Others feel cooler, shadowed by unseen foliage, waiting for balance. You notice how stress, in small doses, leaves a trace. A dry patch here, a brittle ridge there, but also how calm, rest, and mindful attention return the soil to softness. You inhale, letting the warmth carry upward. Exhale, letting the currents smooth the ridges. The garden moves with you, alive to your rhythm. A soft rustling whispers along the edges of the path, like tiny leaves brushing against each other. You notice how microbial neighborhoods respond to subtle changes, shifting positions, adjusting their clusters, communicating through the soft pulses of light and chemical signals. The internal weather affects them as much as they affect you. Stress dries patches of soil, yet their gentle labor can restore moisture. Calm enriches the earth, and in return, the soil, the blooms, and the whispers return calm to you. A delicate feedback loop, invisible yet profoundly felt. You inhale slowly, noticing how the glow of neurotransmitter blossoms flickers in response to these internal shifts. Serotonin petals brighten in sunlit patches of soil. Dopamine sways gently in warmer currents. GABA pulses faintly, releasing its lavender calm in areas touched by subtle breezes of attention. You exhale, letting the warmth thread through your chest. You feel the quiet power of your breath acting like rain, soft, patient, restorative. Walking further, you notice a slight fog gathering over a patch of soil, a reminder that internal climate is not always constant. The fog is not frightening. It is merely a signal of imbalance. You inhale, letting awareness drift into the mist. Exhale slowly, visualizing warmth spreading, soil softening, microbial clusters responding with gentle pulses. Each inhale, each exhale, feels like a tiny act of weathermaking, shaping the garden's climate through nothing more than patient attention. A breeze rises, carrying warmth and light across the foggy patch. You exhale slowly, noticing how the fog thins, how the soil gains subtle pulses of glow. The garden demonstrates how resilient it can be, even in the presence of shifts or imbalances. You inhale again, letting the moisture rise in your awareness. Exhale, letting it settle across your chest, threading through shoulders, back, and mind. The climate of the inner garden reflects your emotional state, but it is not fixed. It responds, it adapts, it thrives with gentle guidance. You pause near a small, glimmering pond in the garden, a reflective surface of inner awareness. The water is calm, rippling faintly with your breath. You notice reflections of the chemical blossoms floating in the air above, their fragrances mingling with the mist. You inhale, drawing the reflections into your awareness, letting them touch your chest. Exhale, letting warmth spread through your spine. You feel a subtle recognition that the garden is not just a passive reflection of your mood. It is an active participant in shaping it. You step along the pond's edge, noticing tiny currents of light brushing over your hands. The microcurrents carry signals from the microbial neighborhoods below. Some clusters pulse brighter when you exhale. Others respond subtly to your inhalation. You sense a quiet dialogue unfolding between your breath and the internal climate. Your presence is gentle, non-intrusive, but profoundly shaping. You realize that your own emotional state and the garden's climate are intertwined, each influencing the other in patient, unhurried ways. A soft sunbeam or something like it, filtered through the inner canopy, illuminates a patch of soil that was previously shadowed. You inhale slowly, letting the warmth fill the area. The microbial neighborhoods respond, pulsing with light and chemical whispers. The dry ridges soften. Blossoms tilt slightly as if bowing to the sunlight. You exhale, feeling a subtle lift in your mood, a gentle shift in balance. Calm rises like fog rolling off a valley, settling gently across your awareness. You continue walking along the winding path, letting each inhale and exhale guide you. Tiny raindrops of warmth seem to fall from your breath, threading through the soil, nudging the garden toward equilibrium. You notice how small changes ripple outward, A gentle adjustment in thought, a conscious shift in posture, a soft stretch of the shoulders. The garden responds with immediate subtlety, restoring moisture here, brightening light there. The climate is dynamic, alive, and you are part of it. The breeze grows slightly warmer, brushing across the chemical blossoms, carrying gentle fragrances to your chest. You kneel for a moment, letting the soil pulse beneath your hands, letting the microcurrents of light wash over your awareness. You inhale, feeling the warmth thread into your spine. Exhale, letting the garden settle, balancing itself in response to your breath. You recognize that calm is not absence of weather. It is the ability to participate in it with awareness, patience, and gentle guidance. You rise and continue forward, noticing a distant shimmer where sunlight, fog, and blossoms meet. The garden stretches ahead, a landscape of internal climate. Dry patches softened by warmth, moist soil carrying chemical whispers, blooms swaying in gentle currents. You inhale, letting the light thread through your awareness. Exhale, letting warmth settle across your chest. The rhythms of stress, calm, and adaptation pulse softly beneath your attention. A quiet, patient symphony that shapes not only the soil, but your inner life. From the shadows, ancient inhabitants begin stepping forward. You begin with a slow, deliberate breath, noticing the warmth of the inner garden beneath your awareness. The chemical blossoms sway gently in the light, their fragrances threading softly through the soil. You exhale, letting the subtle hum of microbial whispers settle deeper into your awareness. A gentle curiosity rises as you step toward an older, shadowed patch of the garden, where the soil is richer, darker, and denser, carrying the quiet weight of time. Here the ancients dwell. You kneel, letting your fingers hover above the soil, sensing the steady pulses beneath. These microbes have lived alongside life for eons. They are not hurried. They are patient. They are wise. Their movements are deliberate, subtle, shaped by countless cycles of seasons, shifts, and adaptation. You inhale slowly, feeling the gentle reverence in the soil. You exhale, letting your awareness settle into the presence of these oldest gardeners. The light of the garden is softer here, filtered through layers of history. You notice faint threads of glow connecting clusters of ancient microbes, threads that pulse with slow, rhythmic precision. They speak in whispers older than memory, in signals passed down through countless generations. You feel the weight of their experience, not heavy, not burdensome, but quietly steadying. In their presence, the garden feels anchored, grounded, as if time itself is folding softly around you. You take a slow step along the patch, observing the intricate patterns etched into the soil. Tiny ridges, gentle grooves, and subtle clusters hint at the ancient practices of balance and care. These microbes maintain traditions that shaped life long before your awareness emerged. They tend the soil, manage the blooms, regulate chemical whispers with patient, unseen hands. You inhale, sensing the deep harmony they cultivate. Exhale, and the warmth spreads through your chest, settling into a quiet calm. The ancients do not rush. You notice their movements are measured, responding to subtle shifts in moisture, warmth, and chemical pulses. You imagine them weaving threads of balance through the garden, tending not only the soil but the delicate ecosystem of your awareness. Their patience has become part of the garden's rhythm. You inhale, letting the slow pulse of ancient life fill your lungs. You exhale, feeling a gentle steadiness settle in your mind, a subtle reassurance that growth is always possible when nurtured with care. A gentle breeze stirs through the soil, though no wind exists here. It carries warmth and light, brushing against the chemical blossoms and the patches of older soil. You notice how the ancients respond, subtle pulses threading through their clusters, adjusting, calibrating, maintaining harmony. Their labor is invisible yet profoundly effective. You inhale deeply, letting the rhythm of their work flow through your awareness. Exhale, and you sense the garden settle, breathing with you, breathing around you. You kneel beside a cluster of ancient gardeners, letting your hand hover just above the soil. Warmth rises like a soft tide. You notice tiny, deliberate blooms emerging, different from the newer petals you have seen before. Their fragrance is subtle, seasoned, carrying hints of stability and resilience. You inhale slowly, letting the warmth thread through your chest. You exhale, feeling a subtle trust settle within you, as though the ancients are silently assuring you that this garden, this body, this mind, has endured far longer than any fleeting moment of worry or unrest. Time itself seems different here. You notice faint echoes of cycles long past, the rise and fall of soil, the quiet pulse of seasons, the subtle shifts of climate within the garden. The ancients have adapted to each change, weaving their wisdom into the microbial network. You inhale, sensing the depth of their knowledge carried in every pulse. Exhale, letting it settle in your awareness. You feel steadier, calmer, anchored by the slow certainty of life that has endured through eons. As you move along the patch, you notice that the ancients are not solitary. They exist in subtle cooperation with younger neighborhoods of microbes. Their signals thread outward, guiding the rhythms of chemical blooms and whispers, shaping patterns in the soil without force or urgency. You inhale, noticing how the glow of serotonin, dopamine, and GABA petals flickers in response to the presence of these seasoned gardeners. Exhale, and you sense a quiet symbiosis. Ancients guiding new life shaping the soil with gentle vibrancy. A tiny, playful pulse of light rises from the soil, as if one of the ancient microbes acknowledges your presence. You smile softly, amused and comforted. You inhale slowly, letting the warmth rise through your shoulders and chest. Exhale, and the light settles, threading into the garden's rhythm. You notice how these microbes maintain balance not by force, but by subtle, patient guidance, ensuring that the garden thrives without stress, without rush, without fear. You continue along the path, observing how the ancient gardeners weave their influence through the soil. Some clusters pulse in response to chemical messages from distant blooms. Others adjust their positions, creating harmony across neighborhoods. You inhale, letting the pattern of light and warmth fill your awareness. Exhale slowly, noticing how the rhythm threads through your chest, softening tension, encouraging calm. You feel a quiet gratitude for the patience of these invisible gardeners, for the steady, unwavering care embedded in every pulse. The garden feels older here, yet alive in ways that feel timeless. You notice the soil beneath your knees is rich and yielding, nurtured by countless cycles of microbial labor. The chemical blossoms around you respond gently to the presence of the ancients, their petals pulsing with subtle, resonant light. You inhale deeply, letting warmth and calm rise through your awareness. Exhale, and you feel a slow steadiness, a subtle reassurance that the rhythm of life persists, patiently, gently, through all seasons. You pause for a moment, letting your breath sync with the slow pulse of the ancient gardeners. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. The garden hums in response, a quiet symphony of care and balance. You feel anchored, supported by a lineage of life that has quietly nurtured every layer of the soil beneath you. The ancients are teachers without words, guides without force, shaping harmony through patient attention and unwavering presence. You take one final step through the patch, noticing how the light of the pathway ahead glimmers faintly, inviting you forward. You inhale, letting warmth rise through your awareness. Exhale, feeling the steady pulse of the ancient gardeners beneath your hands. They have tended the soil for eons. They continue to do so, and now you carry a piece of their patience, their wisdom, their quiet guidance, threading it into your own awareness. You notice how food's simple, grounding, real falls into the garden like gentle compost. You begin with a slow, deliberate breath, noticing the warmth of the inner garden beneath your awareness. The ancient gardeners pulse softly in the soil, guiding the chemical blooms and maintaining balance. You exhale, letting the subtle rhythms settle deep in your chest. A gentle hum rises through the soil, carrying faint fragrances of earlier blooms and the quiet activity of microbial neighborhoods. You inhale slowly, letting the warmth thread through your awareness. You exhale and the garden breathes with you. Ahead, a soft light glimmers where pathways widen into open patches. You notice small fragments drifting down from above, fibers, colors, and nutrients, each like a tiny comet landing gently in the soil. They settle softly, sinking into the warmth, releasing subtle pulses of nourishment. You inhale, sensing the quiet absorption of each particle. Exhale, letting the warmth rise through your chest. These are the meals of the garden, the gentle sustenance that feeds not only the soil but the moods that thread through your awareness. You kneel beside a patch where a rainbow of nutrients drifts like drifting pollen. Tiny microbial clusters lean toward each particle, brushing gently, guiding them into soil crevices, distributing them evenly, sharing their bounty. You notice how the chemical blossoms sway in response, petals opening slightly as if inhaling the warmth of nourishment. You inhale, letting the rhythm thread through your awareness. Exhale, and the garden seems to sigh in contentment, a soft, steady hum threading through the soil. Fiber drifts softly into the soil like delicate threads of silk, weaving through microbial neighborhoods. You watch how clusters follow the threads, stretching, bending, shaping the pathways for absorption. The fibers become more than food. They are invitations, tiny bridges connecting neighborhoods, allowing energy and care to spread evenly. You inhale slowly, sensing warmth and balance rise in your chest. Exhale, letting the gentle pulses thread through your awareness, a quiet hum of well-being filling the garden. Colors drift next, reds, oranges, deep purples, golden yellows, each particle settling with delicate precision. They release subtle fragrances of nutrients, light, and potential. You notice how the chemical blooms respond. Serotonin petals brighten, dopamine sways gently, and GABA pulses faintly, carrying calm into the surrounding soil. You inhale, letting warmth rise through your spine. Exhale, noticing how the entire garden responds to the nourishment, adjusting in harmony, shifting effortlessly with the inflow of gentle energy. The ancients pulse softly in their clusters, guiding the newcomers, the fibers, colors, and nutrients, toward the soil most in need. You inhale slowly, sensing their deliberate attention. Exhale, and you feel a gentle reassurance threading through your awareness. The garden is patient. The garden is responsive. It is not hurried. Every particle of nourishment is woven into the fabric of the soil, creating patterns of balance that ripple subtly outward, touching chemical blossoms, microbial neighborhoods, and the pathway of light leading upward. You take a slow step forward, watching as nutrients settle into the soil. Some particles are absorbed quickly, moving like gentle ripples through microbial clusters. Others linger, releasing warmth, threading slow pulses of chemical signals. You inhale, noticing how serotonin petals tilt toward each source of nourishment, how dopamine responds with gentle sways, how GABA emits faint lavender waves of calm. Exhale, letting the garden's warmth thread through your chest, your shoulders, your awareness, soothing every corner of your inner ecosystem. A breeze stirs softly, carrying warmth and subtle fragrance through the garden. You notice how the chemical blossoms respond to this moving air, opening, pulsing, swaying with each breath. You inhale, letting the warmth rise along your spine. Exhale, letting the soil respond, absorbing nutrients, adjusting gently to maintain balance. You notice the interplay, the breath you provide, the soil's response, the chemical blossom's subtle guidance, forming a rhythm that feels like soft waves rolling through your awareness. You kneel beside a cluster of microbes delicately tending a particularly vibrant patch. Fibers thread through their neighborhoods, colors drift down in soft arcs, and nutrients settle with care. You watch as they distribute nourishment evenly, ensuring balance across the soil. The chemical blossoms sway in subtle arcs, releasing pulses of warmth into your chest. You inhale, letting the energy rise gently. Exhale, letting it settle, threading through your awareness, soft and steady. Meals become more than just particles of sustenance. They become metaphors for care. Each small choice you make, each mindful moment of nourishment, threads through your awareness like gentle silk. The fibers, the colors, the nutrients carry intention, awareness, patience, and presence. You inhale slowly, letting the warmth rise through your shoulders. Exhale, letting the pulses of the garden respond, guiding chemical blossoms, microbial clusters, and soil into harmony. You take another slow step, noticing how microbial clusters adjust their positions slightly in response to each particle. The ancients guide the younger neighborhoods, weaving them into balance. The chemical blossoms tilt and pulse in gentle rhythm, adjusting to the new patterns of nourishment. You inhale, sensing warmth rise through your chest. Exhale, letting the garden breathe with you, settling into equilibrium. A faint glimmer appears above, a patch where fibers, colors, and nutrients converge, pooling softly before sinking into the soil. You notice how serotonin, dopamine, and GABA petals tilt toward this light, inhaling subtle pulses of nourishment. You inhale, letting warmth thread through your awareness. Exhale, feeling calm, focus, and subtle joy spread through your chest. The garden responds to your breath as much as to the nourishment, forming a symphony of cooperation and presence. You pause for a moment, placing a hand gently above a cluster of microbial neighborhoods. Warmth pulses upward from the soil, threading into your fingers, your wrist, your arms. You inhale slowly, feeling the flow of nourishment, guidance, and calm rise into your awareness. Exhale, letting the garden settle, chemical blossoms swaying gently, microbial clusters humming faintly, soil adjusting with deliberate patience. The garden teaches you that nourishment is both internal and external, both physical and emotional. Meals become more than sustenance. They become care. Small choices ripple outward through the inner ecosystem, touching chemical blossoms, microbial neighborhoods, and the pathway of light leading upward. You inhale slowly, letting warmth rise through your chest. Exhale, letting it settle, threading soft reassurance through your shoulders and awareness. You step forward, noticing that the garden feels steadier now, richer, brighter. Fibers, colors, and nutrients drift softly, absorbed evenly across neighborhoods. Chemical blossoms pulse gently, responding to the gentle infusion. The ancients guide with quiet precision, teaching patience and balance through every pulse of light, every fragrance of nourishment. You inhale slowly, sensing the rhythm thread through your awareness. Exhale, letting the garden settle, steady and vibrant, in harmony with your own breath. The garden feels ready to lead you further. You notice a pathway extending outward, illuminated faintly by the pulses of chemical blossoms and microbial neighborhoods, carrying gentle whispers upward. You inhale, letting warmth rise through your awareness. Exhale, letting the soil absorb the last threads of light and nourishment, threading the garden into balance. The garden feels steadier now, but you notice a pathway leading outward. You begin with a slow inhale, feeling the warmth of the inner garden thread through your chest, shoulders, and spine. The chemical blossoms sway gently, releasing subtle pulses of fragrance. Microbial neighborhoods pulse softly, humming faintly in response to your breath. You exhale, letting the soil settle, and notice how the ancients and younger gardeners alike pause in quiet acknowledgement of your presence. A faint breeze stirs through the garden, not from wind, but from the rhythm of your awareness. You rise slowly, feeling each movement ripple through your body. Your arms stretch, your shoulders shift, and the soil beneath your awareness responds. Microbial clusters adjust with subtle pulses of light, tilting toward the warmth of your motion. You inhale, sensing the gentle currents rise, flowing through chemical blossoms and soil alike. Exhale slowly, letting the garden absorb the energy of movement, carrying it through neighborhoods of ancient and young microbes. A breeze flows across the blooms, brushing serotonin petals gently, swaying dopamine, and pulsing GABA with faint lavender light. You notice how each subtle shift of your body, an arm lifted, a shoulder rolled, a spine stretched, moves the air of the garden, nudging microcurrents into gentle circulation. You inhale, letting the warmth thread through your awareness. Exhale, noticing a faint hum rising from the soil, a quiet acknowledgement of the rhythm you create. You walk along the winding paths, feeling the soil beneath your awareness pulse with each step. Tiny particles of fiber, nutrients, and color, remnants of previous nourishment. Stir softly, moved by your presence. You inhale, letting warmth rise into your chest. Exhale, noticing how the chemical blossoms sway in gentle arcs, responding to subtle currents. You sense the connection between your motion and the microcosm below, understanding that your movement is part of the ongoing conversation. You pause near a cluster of gentle blooms, watching them respond to a soft twist of your torso. Serotonin petals brighten, dopamine sways, and GABA pulses with calm authority. The ancients shift slightly, leaning into your motion, guiding younger neighborhoods to adjust with grace. You inhale, letting warmth flow through your spine. Exhale, and you feel the subtle lift in your awareness, a quiet ripple of steadiness threading through the garden and your chest alike. Slowly, you lift your arms above your head, stretching, elongating the pathway of light through the garden. You notice how the soil pulses beneath, microbial clusters tilting gently, and chemical blossoms adjusting to your motion. You inhale, feeling warmth rise from your core. Exhale, letting the subtle currents of air carry through the inner ecosystem, brushing petals, moving clusters, and inviting small sprouts of new blossoms. A gentle hum threads through the air, following the motion of your breath. You inhale, feeling the rhythm expand, threading through the chemical signals that pulse along the inner pathways. Exhale, noticing how serotonin petals tilt toward the warmth, dopamine sways in arcs, and GABA releases faint lavender waves of calm. Each breath, each movement, nudges the garden into harmony, synchronizing your internal climate with the rhythm of presence and motion. You bend slowly, allowing your fingertips to hover just above the soil. Tiny particles rise in response, disturbed by your motion, settling softly into new configurations. Microbial neighborhoods shift gracefully, distributing resources, adjusting balances, and guiding subtle chemical responses. You inhale, sensing warmth thread through your chest. Exhale, letting the garden settle in harmony with your movement. Each gesture, each gentle sway, is a conversation, a pulse, a quiet dance that threads calm, vitality, and steadiness into your awareness. You take a slow step forward, noticing how each movement creates currents of energy through the garden. Leaves of chemical blossoms sway in arcs, microclusters pulse gently, and ancient gardeners tilt slightly toward the motion. You inhale, letting warmth rise through your shoulders and spine. Exhale, feeling subtle vibrations ripple through the soil beneath your awareness. You notice how small, deliberate movements, rolling shoulders, gentle stretches, slow steps, encourage microcurrents to flow, distributing calm, nourishment, and balance throughout the garden. The air around you carries warmth and faint fragrance as you sway gently from side to side. Serotonin petals tilt toward the flow, dopamine responds with subtle arcs, and GABA releases pulses of calm. You inhale slowly, feeling the rhythm thread through your awareness. Exhale, letting the garden adjust, settling into a quiet, harmonious rhythm. Each movement you make is an invitation for the inner ecosystem to breathe, stretch, and awaken gently. A faint glimmer rises above, where microcurrents converge. You step lightly toward it, noticing how your breath and motion stir the energy, moving clusters and petals in arcs of light. You inhale, letting warmth rise through your chest. Exhale, feeling subtle balance ripple through your awareness. You sense that movement is more than physical. It is a bridge, a soft wind connecting chemical blooms, microbial neighborhoods, and your own internal awareness. You pause, noticing how gentle physical activity threads through the soil. Tiny particles shift, clusters respond, petals pulse softly. Breath and motion together create waves that carry warmth, nourishment, and balance across the garden. You inhale, letting the rhythm rise through your spine. Exhale, noticing how the chemical blossoms sway, how the ancients pulse with calm, and how the garden hums in gentle, unhurried harmony. A playful pulse of light threads across the soil, as if the microclusters respond with quiet humor to your gentle sway. You smile softly, inhaling warmth, exhaling slow reassurance through your awareness. The garden responds to your motion, to your breath, to your presence, threading calm, vitality, and gentle curiosity through every petal, every cluster, every pulse of soil. You take a slow, full stretch, arms rising and falling, feeling warmth thread along your spine. Serotonin petals tilt toward the light, dopamine sways in arcs, GABA releases lavender calm. The ancients nod in quiet approval, and younger neighborhoods follow in measured arcs of motion. You inhale deeply, letting warmth rise from core to chest. Exhale, letting it settle, threading calm and balance through your entire awareness. Step by step, breath by breath, the garden learns to dance with you. Each movement is a gentle breeze, each exhale a soft rain, each inhale a sunbeam warming the soil. Microbial neighborhoods respond, chemical blossoms sway, and the ancients maintain their quiet guidance. You inhale slowly, feeling the rhythm thread through your awareness. Exhale, letting it settle, knowing that every breath, every gentle movement, is a gift to the garden and to yourself. A doorway appears, a threshold between habit and transformation. You begin with a breath, slow and full, letting warmth thread through your chest and spine. The garden before you feels familiar yet subtly different. Paths are uneven, soil patches darker, some blooms less vibrant. You inhale slowly, noticing a gentle fog rising from the soil, soft and gray, diffusing light without harshness. Exhale, and the warmth settles through your awareness. You remind yourself, the garden is not broken. It is merely shifting, responding to the patterns of life and your inner climate. As you step forward, the soil beneath your awareness feels heavier, less yielding. Microbial neighborhoods cluster densely, some petals drooping, chemical blossoms dimmed. You sense subtle messages in the pulses of light, a quiet alert that the balance of the garden is altered. You inhale slowly, feeling warmth rise through your shoulders. Exhale, letting reassurance thread through your awareness. Imbalance is natural. The garden has always adapted, always healed, and always grown again. You notice dry patches where nutrients have not yet reached, where the hum of microbial whispers is faint. You kneel beside a dim blossom, brushing your awareness gently over it. You inhale, imagining warmth and light seeping into the soil. Exhale, letting the soft pulse spread through microbial neighborhoods. Each breath feels like a small act of care, a quiet gesture toward restoring the rhythm of the inner ecosystem. Some areas are overgrown, too dense, with tangled clusters of soil and blooms competing for space. You observe without judgment, letting curiosity guide your awareness. A faint breeze carries warmth and subtle fragrance through the dense growth. You inhale slowly, letting it fill your chest. Exhale, imagining gentle pathways opening, clusters adjusting, blossoms tilting toward the light. Balance is not about force. It is about patience, observation, and gentle guidance. You step into a foggy patch where light barely penetrates. The soil feels soft but uneven, pulsing with microcurrents that are hesitant, slow. Chemical blossoms dim in response to the fog, petals folding slightly. You inhale, letting warmth rise through your spine. Exhale, threading reassurance into the soil, reminding the garden of its resilience. You sense that the microbial neighborhoods are capable of restoring balance if given the opportunity, nurtured by awareness, breath, and gentle care. A breeze stirs faintly through the fog, carrying subtle fragrances of distant blooms. You inhale, noticing the scent reach your chest, thread warmth along your shoulders. Exhale slowly, letting the microcurrents adjust, clusters redistributing, chemical blossoms tilting toward the light. You remind yourself that imbalance is temporary, a natural part of the garden's life. Each inhale, each exhale, is a gentle rain nourishing patches that are dry, a soft wind encouraging overgrown areas to sway into harmony. You walk further, observing the effects of stress and diet on the soil. Tiny fissures appear where the soil has compacted, nutrients moving unevenly. Petals of serotonin, dopamine, and GABA flicker faintly, responding to the shifts. You kneel and brush your awareness over the soil, imagining warm light threading into each fissure, each cluster, each bloom. Inhale, exhale. Each breath is a subtle act of restoration, a reminder that the garden can recover, that rhythms can return, that balance is always within reach. A gentle drizzle of warmth falls through your awareness, soft as a whisper. You watch as microbial neighborhoods respond, adjusting clusters, releasing faint pulses of light. Chemical blossoms begin to tilt toward the warmth, petals softening, swaying in gentle arcs. You inhale, letting warmth rise through your chest and shoulders. Exhale, feeling tension ease, soil softening, microcurrents aligning. The garden is healing with each pulse of attention, each thread of breath, each gentle step you take along the path. You pause beside an overgrown patch where younger neighborhoods have crowded the soil. You notice how the ancients lean gently, nudging clusters, redistributing resources, guiding subtle adjustments. You inhale, sensing the deliberate patience in their movements. Exhale, letting reassurance spread through your awareness, softening the soil beneath your attention. Imbalance is not a failure. It is an invitation to notice, to breathe, to participate in restoration. A faint hum rises from the soil as you continue walking, threading warmth and awareness through the garden. Chemical blossoms respond, petals swaying, releasing subtle fragrances of calm. Microbial neighborhoods adjust gently, clusters redistributing nutrients, opening pathways for light and air. You inhale, feeling warmth rise through your spine. Exhale, letting reassurance thread through every corner of your awareness, every patch of soil, every delicate pulse of microbial life. You notice subtle cycles within the imbalance. Some areas are recovering naturally, microcurrents adjusting, chemical blossoms brightening faintly. Others require patience, slow attention, mindful observation. You inhale, letting warmth rise along your shoulders and chest. Exhale, feeling the garden respond, softening, stretching, recovering at its own rhythm. You remind yourself that balance is not instant. It is a process, quiet, patient, unhurried, unfolding like the slow turn of seasons. You step into a patch where nutrients are sparse, soil thin, and microclusters hesitant. You kneel, letting awareness hover over the soil. Inhale, threading warmth into the deepest crevices. Exhale, noticing microcurrents respond, shifting clusters, brightening petals, softening soil. The garden listens to your breath, your presence, your patient attention. You feel that even the dimmest, foggiest patch has potential. Even the driest soil can be nourished. Even the most overgrown neighborhood can find harmony. Tiny blossoms begin to respond. Serotonin petals tilt toward light, dopamine sways in arcs, and GABA pulses softly. You inhale, letting warmth rise from your chest to your spine. Exhale, noticing how microcurrents pulse in harmony with your breath. Chemical signals flowing gently through clusters, soil softening beneath your awareness. Each breath, each step, each gesture of attention is a thread weaving the garden back into equilibrium. You walk further, noticing how small choices, breath, movement, attention, nourishment, affect the internal climate. Dry patches regain moisture, overgrown clusters sway into alignment, blossoms tilt toward the light. You inhale, letting warmth thread through your shoulders and chest. Exhale, feeling subtle harmony spread through soil, petals, and microcurrents alike. You sense that recovery is gentle, persistent, unhurried. The garden heals in rhythm with your breath and awareness. A playful pulse of light rises from a distant patch, as if the microclusters are acknowledging your presence. You smile softly, inhaling warmth, exhaling reassurance through your awareness. The garden responds to your attention, to your patience, to your gentle guidance, threading calm, balance, and subtle joy through every corner. You notice that the balance of the garden is not a single moment. It is an ongoing dance, a rhythm of care, a quiet symphony of restoration. You pause near a reflective pond, watching ripples of light and fragrance move through the fog. You inhale slowly, letting warmth rise through your awareness. Exhale, feeling reassurance settle, soil softening, microcurrents aligning. The chemical blossoms tilt gently, petals brushing each other in subtle arcs of light. You notice that imbalance is not failure. It is part of the garden's rhythm, a natural invitation to participate, to care, to restore. Step by step, breath by breath, the garden recovers. Dry patches soften, overgrown clusters sway, blossoms tilt and pulse. Ancient gardeners guide, younger neighborhoods follow, microcurrents realign. You inhale, letting warmth rise from core to chest. Exhale, feeling gentle steadiness spread through your awareness. The garden is never static. It shifts, adjusts, adapts, and with patience and presence, it thrives again. You take one last slow step, noticing how the patches you passed now glow faintly, soil softening, chemical blossoms swaying in arcs of light, microclusters pulsing with quiet energy. You inhale, letting warmth rise through your chest and spine. Exhale, threading calm and reassurance through every corner of the garden. Every pulse, every breath. You begin rebuilding gently, patiently, breath by breath. You begin with a slow inhale, noticing warmth rise through your chest, threading gently along your shoulders and spine. The garden before you feels quieter now, balanced but still shifting in soft currents. Patches that were dry or overgrown have begun to respond to gentle attention. Microclusters adjusting, blossoms tilting toward light. You exhale slowly, letting reassurance settle into your awareness. Harmony is returning, subtly, patiently, one breath at a time. You step forward and notice tiny seeds drifting through the soil, glimmering faintly with potential. They are not grand gestures or sweeping changes, simply small acts of care, reminders of your presence and attention. Sleep, fiber-rich meals, mindfulness, curiosity. Each is a seed, settling into the soil, waiting for light, water, and gentle encouragement. You inhale, letting warmth rise through your spine. Exhale, letting the garden absorb these new threads of possibility. You kneel beside a patch where microcurrents are slow and chemical blossoms are faint. The seeds you have planted drift down softly, settling into the soil. Microbial neighborhoods respond with gentle pulses of light, nudging petals and clusters into alignment. You inhale, noticing subtle warmth rise in your chest. Exhale, letting reassurance thread through the soil, softening tension, encouraging steady growth. Each small choice, each tiny act of care, moves the garden toward balance, inviting gentle renewal. A faint breeze stirs through the garden, carrying warmth and subtle fragrance. You notice how the chemical blossoms respond, petals tilting toward light, releasing soft pulses of calm. Microbial neighborhoods adjust gently, clusters redistributing, energy flowing through the soil. You inhale slowly, letting warmth rise through your chest and shoulders. Exhale, noticing the subtle rhythm threading through the garden, your breath in harmony with microcurrents and blossoms alike. You take a slow step along the winding path, observing how small gestures of attention ripple outward. One deliberate breath threads warmth into a dry patch. A mindful stretch nudges clusters into alignment. A fiber-rich meal drifts softly into the soil, nourishing chemical blossoms and microcurrents. You inhale, letting the warmth thread through your awareness. Exhale, feeling subtle calm and balance settle across every corner of the garden. Tiny blooms pulse gently, tilting in arcs of light and fragrance. Serotonin petals brighten faintly, dopamine sways in gentle rhythm, and GABA releases soft lavender waves of calm. The ancients lean subtly toward each seed, guiding clusters, adjusting microcurrents, helping new life integrate smoothly into the soil. You inhale, sensing warmth rise along your spine. Exhale, feeling the rhythm of restoration settle in your awareness, soft and unhurried. You kneel beside a particularly quiet patch, where microcurrents seem hesitant. You imagine small, deliberate acts of care, gentle stretches, slow, mindful breaths, quiet nourishment, threading warmth through the soil. The seeds respond, sinking slowly, pulsing faintly with light. Microclusters adjust, petals tilt, and the soil softens. You inhale, letting the warmth rise through your chest. Exhale, feeling a soft pulse of reassurance thread through your awareness. reminding you that healing is gradual, patient, and enduring. You continue walking, noticing how each patch responds differently. Some areas brighten quickly, responding to subtle shifts in attention. Others take longer, requiring more gentle care, more time, more breaths. You inhale, letting warmth rise through your shoulders. Exhale, letting patience settle into every corner of the garden. The rhythm of growth is slow, unhurried, weaving calm and resilience into the soil, blossoms, and microcurrents alike. You pause beside a cluster of vibrant chemical blossoms, watching how they sway in response to new microcurrents. The ancients pulse faintly, guiding younger neighborhoods, ensuring each seed of care integrates smoothly. You inhale, feeling warmth rise through your spine. Exhale, noticing how subtle light threads through soil, clusters, and petals, carrying gentle reassurance that restoration is ongoing, patient, and quietly powerful. Small choices ripple outward. One conscious breath threads warmth into a dry patch. A fiber-rich meal nourishes distant clusters. A gentle stretch nudges microcurrents to flow. You inhale, letting warmth rise through your chest. Exhale, noticing subtle pulses of balance spread across the garden, through chemical blossoms, microbial neighborhoods, and soil alike. Each action, each breath, each small seed becomes a quiet architect of harmony.